back. WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are merging the streams of WNST and 23 years of radio and about 13, 14 years of web and internet and blogs and all of Luke Jones's Orioles blogs and Ravens blogs into one place. Chris Pike and I have been eating crabs and crab cakes and corn from the farmer's market together now that he is officially a Baltimorean, which means you left and came back again. So Chris Pike, of course, blog and tackle and always involved with the Pro Football Writers Association. And, dude, you haven't been on with me in a while, and this is the first time we're christening here. It's the Virgin Voyage of Chris Pike and blog and tackle on the Zoom thing. Welcome in, Piker, from the basement. Show everybody your bobbleheads. Come on now. Come on.
We'll leave those for another time.
No?
No,
not even one?
Still working on them.
All right, just like we're working on the website right now. All right, dude, so you're back in Baltimore. We're in the middle of a pandemic. You're living in South Baltimore. I'm sure there was a point for you that thought, well, maybe you would be like walking to the game with your wife or working at the game or whatever on a normal Sunday. Instead, anything but normal in your life, my life, and you can feel free to give a little background for what you generally are doing, probably at an Iowa State football game or something on a Saturday for ESPN and the work that you do. But nothing's normal about any of this. And I said this to Luke, except that the Ravens just went out and kicked the snot out of the Browns and made it feel like, nothing's happened the last 6 months except that they drafted and reloaded.
And I think the thing that for me that was kind of weird yesterday was the fact that normally if you live this close to the stadiums as you and I both do, okay, we're within walking distance of the ballpark and the stadium. The fact that there's that energy on game day of people parking their cars and walking through neighborhoods, you see everybody in the jerseys and the gear, and everybody's has expectations about the day. It was a beautiful September afternoon. And
it almost looks like St. Joe, right? Same color.
It's like all these people are coming out to go to the game, and there's no energy in the neighborhood. There's no energy around. And obviously, I wasn't anywhere near restaurants or bars on Sunday, so I don't know what that was like. Let's say on Charles Street or some of the other areas. So you kind of miss that a little bit. I miss that, having that sort of that civic energy of a game day. It didn't even feel like week one of the NFL season. We know how hard the NFL, college football, Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NHL have all worked to bring back sports in some way during the pandemic. And yesterday was different. I mean, Sunday was different. And Sam Farmer put up something. The Rams opened up that beautiful brand new stadium in Inglewood, SoFi Stadium. Obviously, no fans in there allowed at all. They're not going to have fans there all season. Sam Farmer basically said, well, Rams fans are enjoying it from SoFi Stadium, not SoFi, but once you get in, it'll be spectacular. And
I mean, it was, all of this is great for Twitter because we're all trying to be glib and we all think we're funny, and you associate yourself with, all the Pro Football Writers. I said to Luke, the strangest thing for me was I was out there at the Biltmore when Mark Davis stepped up and said, I'm moving to Vegas and stealing Sheldon Adelson's money, and we're going to build a thing, and we're going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. I was there when Stan Kroenke, who nobody even knows what he looks like, stood up and said, I'm moving my team from St. Louis, and we're figuring this thing out with the Chargers, and we're, I've been to San Diego where they took the team. I've been to St. Louis where they took the team now, right? And all that they've done. And I'll go back to Oakland where I saw they played baseball in the firestorm and the cutout heads the other night on Twitter as well. It was a morose, solemn vision of what baseball would look like behind home plate in the black hole. And I said, all of this money, $5 billion on building that stadium, all the money sunk into the desert. And, I mean, there's something here that feels like a life lesson. It feels like something that, biblical, that we can't go. You know what I mean? Like there's nobody going to any of these places. They were all built for people. And because we've been careless and because there's a virus and we've been careless with the virus, nobody's going to these games. It sort of, I don't want to tell you what it reminds me of, but it's a powerful image, right? I mean, and I think Al Michaels was shook by it on Sunday night at various points during the broadcast.
Oh, you're so used to having 80,000 people in there. For the announcers, it's hard to get actually any sort of enthusiasm in your voice. You need that crowd noise to lift you. And it's part of the reason why you have crowd noise in the background. One, it's for the players to give them some sort of sense of the sound that they normally have during football. It's the same for the announcers. There are several announcers in college football and ESPN are calling games from home. They have home setups. So guys are putting up pictures of how they're doing this. And it's an incredible production by the networks to make this happen. And I believe it's even happening in the NFL in some places where they're calling from studios, but except for the main crews, it's just different. It's just different. You have these massive cathedrals to pro football in LA and Vegas that are opening, these beautiful shrines that, you and I have walked into Minnesota, you and I have walked into Atlanta. We've seen the new NFL stadium model. Okay. And these are two at the upper end now. Now they sit at the top of the heap. And they're empty. They're completely empty except for the play on the field. And it reminds us, when we were kids, we used to watch those wrestling shows on Saturday mornings that were in the studios at WBAL or whatever TV station.
They were from Allentown, Pennsylvania in the end, right?
And you're watching that, and that's what this feels like when you're watching these games on television with nobody in the stands. It's basically, it's played in a TV studio for our enjoyment. And that's
I guess the question is, did we enjoy it, right? I mean, I said to Luke, having sat in bed with my cat, with my laptop out, changing his Ravens blogs over for the new Baltimore Positive, and watching his tweets and watching the game, and my wife's in the other room, and she's running back and high-fiving me, from the front room to the back room. And there was something about it that felt normal, right, that it was going on. But the most normal part was that, by and large, the teams are ready to play. I know we spent a whole lot of time talking about it, and we can make fun of the Eagles and talk about the Redskins and talk about the bad teams like the Jets and whatnot. But by and large, it looked and felt like real football, and on television was almost presented as such. And when the guys were scoring and mugging and dancing for the televisions, you damn near forgot there weren't any people there, right? Like a little bit, right?
Right. What you miss is the one thing that television does bring you, and that's those quick cutaway shots of fans in the stands and those fans in the corners of the end zone that go crazy at the Ravens game. You don't have those cutaway shots to give you a sense of, hey, this place is absolutely going bonkers. The players you're right, they're mugging for the cameras.
You mean the kind of fan that would bring a Dump Trumpy sign back in 1996 or a Get Nasty sign in the end zone?
And, I mean, it's just you don't have those cutaway fan reaction shots. Guys like Bill Webb, who were a longtime director for the New York Mets on SNY, the late great Bill Webb should be in the Hall of Fame. He basically came up with, he was the guy that did those close-ups of fans in the stands at baseball games. And whether fans are cheering or they would do that, you'd see the fans doing the surrender cobra when they know their team, but just had something horrible happen to them. That's what you miss in the broadcast. You miss sort of that interaction of watching the reaction of people that are actually in the arena watching.
Like the crying little Duke fanboy, like that.
Right, exactly. That's what you miss. That's really what you miss. You miss that connection with the fans of the stadium that draws you in. And the plays are the same. The game is the same. It's 11 on 11. It's great athletes doing great things. And after a while, you kind of get settled in, and those tight camera angles that don't show you anything, the stands help out. You're just kind of watching the game, and that's what they're hoping for.
You know what? I'm going to start calling you Professor Chris Pika here from the great Loyola University and Mount St. Joe, because I don't want to confuse Dons and Gales and all of that kind of. Everybody gets upset with me on that. So for you with watching it at home, and it's not the first time. I mean, you're sometimes in airports on Sunday like I am. I guess the notion that I'm going to be doing this a lot from home. I'm going to Houston this week for the game to experience what Luke has gotten too used to, quite frankly, at the baseball games. And I kind of asked him about the football side of it. I think it's jarring the first time it happens, and I'm sort of, I'm not looking forward to it, but I feel like it's something I need to chronicle at this point in my life. Having done this for 24 years and gone stadium to stadium, city to city, sometimes on buses, sometimes on planes, sometimes with fans, sometimes alone, sometimes with my son, sometimes with my wife, sometimes with you. By the way, I found the picture of me wearing the pink thing on my head. in Tampa when you and I went to the game after Jen had
Yep.
cancer. Remember
Yep.
that?
Yep.
It's Flacco left, Flacco right, Flacco up high was for 49-0 or whatever it was. And, so you have all these experiences. And then there's the experience of, in the plague, I sat in my bed with my cat. I meant to sit in the front room, but my back hurt, and I put some ice on my back, and I sort of settled in. And then the Houston game, I'm on the roof, and there's no one, and they look like little ants. And then I guess I'm going to be back on my couch for the Kansas City game, right? So I'm going to have these experiences with the game that are going to be very, very different, but they're going to be television experiences like everyone's experience, whether it's going to be a television experience.
Right. I mean, most everybody who can't afford a ticket or doesn't have a way to get in, I mean, this is how they experience the game. And they sit on their couch, they've got their food right at the ready, they've got their beers at the ready, they got their favorite chair, and they're watching their team. And the difference is we're all doing it now. Hopefully in a couple of weeks, I'll be at the Kansas City game working in a capacity for TV. We'll find out. I mean, I'll get to see that firsthand. I want to see this because I'm more interested with how teams are putting this together.
It looks like they're making a movie, right? Like literally, like they're shooting the replacements.
Right. I mean, I sat in the stands as one of those crowd extras for the replacement in Major League 2. Okay. I mean, you see how that sausage gets made, and you're sitting in the, you're going to sit in the press box and watch this where, the game day, everything on the scoreboard is exactly the same as if they had 70,000 people in there. They had the cheerleaders waving they had those people waving the flags. They had those, whatever those
blow up
wind things in the end zone. Yeah. I mean, just to try to create some sort of atmosphere. And so,
well, I see hockey doing that too, in that empty arena with the lights, things going off when a goal is scored, all that. Yeah.
And the NBA is doing that with fans on screens to give them some sort of way in where it looks like it's something. And a lot of that's for television, but a lot of it's trying to draw the fans in. And I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of I don't knows. And the one thing I don't know is, what is this going to look like in 2021? Okay, let's say things get better. We're able to go back out. We're able to go to these events. How is that going to change for the fans that are going to go to the games in a year? What's it going to be like? Are we going to be in Tampa at the Super Bowl? If we are, what is that going to look like at the league's biggest event? We're just getting through week 1, and the league has to look at, okay, well, we've got signature events coming that they're going to have to deal with how this works. I mean, there's usually 5,000 media that show up at the Super Bowl. How many are going to do that? And how many fans are going to show up? How many fans are going to allow in the stadium? We're a long way away from that point, but all of the preparations the league is doing right now to get through week 1, to get everybody healthy, to have, no positive COVID tests, to do the things they've done in the press boxes and tiered access and all this stuff, just to get this going so that they can not only start the season, but most importantly for the NFL and the other pro leagues, complete it, because the playoffs are where the money is, the playoffs are where the television money is. That's what this is about. It's getting through 16 weeks as clean as you can so that you can get to those 4 weeks of playoffs and have those games for your biggest television audiences and the biggest games.
The Professor Chris Pika is here. He is blog and tackle out on social media. And now, of course, living here in the Charm City after spending some time in Atlanta with the Atlanta Falcons organization, in New Orleans for a long time with the New Orleans Saints. We talked so much before the game. And, Chris, you and I have been working so hard to get in Baltimore Positive launch, and I haven't bothered you, brought you on the air. But had you been on last week, you and I would have done 42 minutes back and forth about how the Ravens – and I did this with Kevin Byrne instead, and I did it with Michael Regai and some other old-timers last week, Terry Pluto as well. And you can go listen to all that at the buyatoyota.com audio. You'll also be able to find it at Baltimore Positive, right? So, but you and I would have been saying, like, well, Dick will have this locked down, and John will coach him up, and Eric, the Ravens will be as prepared as anyone, and the Browns will be a mess because they're the Browns, and they've had turnover, and I know what that's like, and I know it's like when a new coach comes in. You would have said all that to me, and as it turns out, the Ravens sort of made good on that, and Lamar made good on that, and the whole franchise made good on that on Sunday in the way that the standards have not gone down during the era of the plague for the Baltimore Ravens, have they?
Right, and that was the most impressive thing about the victory Sunday was that it was a very businessman-like effort from the Ravens. They took care of the business. They got out in front. They kept the foot on the gas. They kept pressure on Cleveland. Lamar looked as good as he did at any point last season. I mean, he finds holes and ways of throwing the football to find receivers. When he had that stretch of 10 straight completions, you're just like, he's finding guys that, you when you look at the replay, especially from the replay behind him, looking at the play, going, how did he see that guy get open? He's throwing to a spot, and the guy's getting to the spot. So, obviously there was some shifting on the offensive line that they had to do Sunday. There were parts of this where, there's some rough patches. Okay, it's week one. Okay, you're never as good as you look when you win, never as bad as you look when you lose.
Well, you're going to find out how good you are because you see Houston and Kansas City now, right? So
right.
That's where the measurement is. All right, we'll see how it holds up against the world champions in 2 weeks.
Right, and also remember, there's been no preseason. These guys haven't hit anybody but themselves for the last 4 weeks, and not even much of that at all. They haven't done a lot of contact. So to actually go out and play another team in anger for real without a 4-week run-up of preseason games, that's pretty impressive to do what they did yesterday. And teams are kind of feeling their way into this, and I think as good as week one looked, I think the brand of football will even be better in about 2 weeks once teams really get into that regular season mode and they get a few games under their belt. I think you'll see some rough patches. You'll see some rough patches in special teams. You'll see some rough patches in some coverage units. But as guys get into real playing shape and hitting shape, I think by week 3, the NFL will look as much as it always has looked.
Here's Chris Pike at Blog and Tackle. The way to find him. Also out doing lots of stuff with the Pro Football Writers Association and monitoring all things NFL. And I beat up the pregame shows earlier because I was sort of stuck at home watching it all on TV. But observations around the league from a preparedness standpoint, and let's say what happened to the Eagles or what happened to the Redskins or what, that's not even their name anymore. I'm going to be saying that forever. But the bad teams look bad. Most of the good teams look pretty good. And I think from a iron it out standpoint for television, not that I wouldn't be watching the NFL, but I'm a hockey fan who's not watching hockey. I'm a baseball fan who's not watching baseball, right? Like, so if it isn't any good or if it's bad or I feel like mowing my lawn on Sunday, there is a standard to all of this that if we are going to stop everything on Sunday, it better not look like 7-inning baseball and guy starts on second. But, it better not turn into, especially with COVID, and I know that's our number one issue, it cannot be a mismatched league or, well, the Packers are going to take a month off. Once that stuff starts happening, we got a mess. Because right now it does have some integrity about it.
Well, it does have integrity. These guys are working really hard. They're professional athletes. And, like I said, week one's kind of tough because a lot of people overreact to what happened in that first week. Are their team's going to be, the Ravens are going to look this good over 16. They might, but more than likely the truth is somewhere in the middle. Is Cleveland going to be as bad as they looked yesterday? Probably not. New coach, new system. They've got some pieces that they're going to win some games. So again, everybody's trying to figure this out. Everybody's trying to get into the hitting shape and game shape. I think that'll happen quicker than anything else. And I don't know if you're going to see teams, like you said, where Green Bay takes a month off or, players. I mean, I think the biggest thing in the league is you're just keeping your fingers crossed that guys do what they're supposed to do off the field when they get to their homes, their apartments, that you don't have what we've seen in college football where we've had games postponed and games moved around because several players, teams, schools couldn't field a team. They didn't have 53 healthy bodies to play, or the position groups had gotten decimated and they couldn't play. I mean, there was a game, Saturday, Georgia Southern had 33 players that were not available. The school did not say why. Obviously, there was some COVID, some coaches' decisions, but that's a lot of athletes to not have.
I got to say this to you because you're the college guy. I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night on Saturday night. My wife and I were out drinking. being idiots, quite frankly. On Saturday night, we went to Roost Chris. We had a good time. Been a little while since we went out. Come home. I got up middle of the night. And I looked down. I'm like, they played college football last night. So,
Mhm.
like, I looked on my phone to get my scores, and I pulled the scoreboard up, and I'm like, the hell are they doing playing football? Like, what's Notre Dame doing? What's Duke do? What are they doing at Wake Forest? Like, I'm just thinking about that out loud, and I saw it, and there were like rankings for teams, and I'm like, well, how the hell do you rank? You know what I mean? Like, the whole thing was just off to me, and somehow I made it through most of Saturday without even realizing they were playing.
Yeah, I watched bits and pieces of games. There weren't a lot of games that, quite honestly, held me as they normally would. Partially because the SEC wasn't playing the real big boys.
There's no fans anywhere, right? Or Florida? Did Florida have fans?
Florida State had fans. Florida State had, I believe, they were allowed 25%. I think there was some at Notre Dame that were students and faculty. So every school and every state has had different setups of what they allow. There are a lot of places that are not allowing. So,
See, I'd be okay with student and faculty. Like, now that I know that a little bit, I'm not a Notre Dame guy at all, but certainly not a Lou Holtz guy lately. But yeah, I mean, if they're going to be open and they're going to play, I guess in that big old stadium to let. I mean, what is? They don't have a lot of students at Notre Dame. Notre Dame's like a small school, right?
It's actually their enrollment's fairly large now.
15,000.
I
I'll look
think
it up,
that's right.
All right. Well, that's still a lot of people.
Somewhere in
Yeah,
there, again,
I take back what I said.
Right, but it's not. I don't think 15,000 students at the game, but their student section is one of the more robust in college football. They show up. They pay money for their student season tickets, and they show up.
I keep going back to why they're playing, and I can't get through that part of it. And I know why the NFL is playing. They're turning a buck. It's professional. It's what they do. They're entertaining us. They're willing to take the risk. I will sign up for pro sports. I cannot sign up for college sports. That's where I am on this one, in the middle of this plague. I'll let you know the next play.
That is a discussion for a day down the line, I believe, on that side.
Well, no, none of the other. I mean, they're not going to play college basketball. They're not going to be doing any of that stuff. So for that,
well, that's not true because the NCAA is looking at a start date of college basketball of November 25th, Thanksgiving Thursday. What you're going to have is those early season tournaments that basically fill the television schedules and fill the non-conference play. They're going to be played in bubbles in different places. There are going to be some in Orlando at ESPN's Wild World of Sports. I believe there's going to be some place at Mohegan Sun up in Connecticut. There's a site in South Dakota because of there's a health company there that does all the testing for PGA Tour. Is in that city in South Dakota where they've got an arena there where they're going to bubble a bunch of those tournaments. So, college basketball is the next sort of frontier here as to how they're going to be. The NBA has said they're not going to start any earlier than Christmas Day, their upcoming season. And that's still to be determined when they're going to start. But they want to play in arenas and figure out their schedule and play 82 games. I think the NBA is going to come out of this with a much different schedule going forward. I don't think the NBA is going to start any earlier than Christmas now after this coming year. I think that's what they're going towards. They want to go into the summer and not play in October, November against the NFL. But college basketball has to figure out how they're going to conduct the season, how many games, and those decisions are going to have to be made by sometime in mid to late October.
Chris Pika with all the information. I said college basketball is not going to play. In my mind, they're not going to play. In my mind, I didn't think the NFL was going to play in June, right? So all that being said, they played, and we've watched, and I will be moving on to Houston this weekend. We're on to the Texans this week. And I guess for the season, this is a big deal for the Ravens, right? I mean, these next couple of weeks, if you're into the soap opera now, and aren't we all, these become big games all of a sudden, not 38-6 walkovers. I know you beat the snot out of Houston last year, and believe me, that'll be brought up a little bit between now and 4 o'clock on Sunday. And the Kansas City thing has now become whatever the Steelers thing used to be, at least for a little while with Lamar and chasing down Patrick Mahomes. But the next couple of weeks become really significant football weeks around here if you're thinking there's going to be a real Super Bowl in Tampa and you're going to be a part of it.
Well, the expectations are certainly high. You have a lot of people that have picked the Ravens to win it. I believe I heard something Sunday. The one announcer said, I think that like the last 3 MVPs of the NFL won the Super Bowl the next season. And certainly the Ravens, if they're going to take that next step and win their third Super Bowl, this is the year to do it because Lamar has gotten better. He obviously has shown that he's progressed. They've gotten some weapons around him. They continue to improve. So you look at the Ravens right now and go, well, there's not much drop off from last season, but there's pretty good teams standing in their way. But the Ravens are a very good football team. I think that much based on their roster and based on the setup. And it's like everybody else. The one thing that they've talked about in other sports that we'll probably be talking about in football is injuries. And we're not talking COVID injuries. We're talking just injuries because you didn't have off-season workouts. You didn't have the OTAs. You didn't have preseason football. So keeping guys healthy and managing load and managing practice time and hitting and all the things that you have to do to stay healthy over 16 games is a little bit more magnified in the situation this year because they didn't have the normal sort of conditioning run up that you have. So, yesterday or Sunday, maybe folks get a little bit nervous because Lamar was in the game probably longer than most people thought they should have. Right. Hey, it's time to take him out because fluke things do happen. And so it's managing those injuries, managing your practice squad, all the things that you have to do. Yes, you have to worry about COVID and transmission, all the stupid things that can happen, but the real injuries, the real things that can derail a season are still in front of you, especially early, and that's what they have to manage too.
Chris will be around lots at the New Baltimore Positive as well as WNST.net. He is Chris Pika. You can find him at Blog and Tackle out on your social media machine. Always good to catch up with you. Appreciate all the backside help on all of that. And we will get some crab cakes together at some point out on an outdoor deck. We better take advantage of some of the outdoor, right? Like, because the weather's getting better because, there won't be any crabs on the deck in December. You know what I mean? It'll be a little too chilly out there for that. But there won't be any mosquitoes either.
That's a plus.
Yeah, I'm coming to have crabs with you. The first night it's 58 degrees and I can wear a sweater and then I'll know there's no mosquitoes and then I can fully, what we should do is get an old tape of Chuck Thompson, calling like the Tigers game in 79, sit and eat some crabs to that. What do you think?
There you go. That's right.
There he is, Chris Pika, Blog and Tackle, back from Atlanta where he belongs, right near where Al Kaline plied his craft. We are WNST.net, AM 1570. You can find me, Nasty, at WNST.net. We're merging the streams, sports, Baltimore Positive, all in one place at one time. It's amazing. It's coming soon. I swear we'll launch soon. I hope.